On this week's 30 Minutes program, my guest today is the mayor of Dresden, Tennessee, Mark Maddox. And this is the weekend, this Sunday afternoon, you have an opportunity to see the brand new Dresden Municipal Complex. So why do we have a new municipal complex? Well, Mayor Maddox, you and previous mayor Jeff Washburn, the city of Dresden was essentially knocked down pretty tough. But here we are now, blooming again, as you would like to say.
5 city blocks and 2 churches, a city hall, and numerous businesses were devastated on December 10th of 2021, Paul. And we have slowly been coming back. The Cumberland Presbyterian Church has been rebuilt, and they've been meeting there for about a year or better. And the Methodist Church opened up a couple of weeks ago, and couple of businesses have gone back into business and reopened. But this Sunday, we have an opportunity to tour the new Dresden Municipal Complex, something that I think all the citizens can be proud. And if there's a blessing out of all of that devastation, is the fact that we have a new modern facility that will be able to serve our citizens for several years to come.
Let me dig a little deeper here on this. Millions of dollars worth of damage that took place across the country. Dresden hit very hard. Lake County, Sandburg, of course Kenton, and then we can go up to Mayfield, and as well as Dresden. Everybody seemed to have been in shock during that period of time, trying to uncover what was left over.
Absolutely. A lot of our citizens did walk around in shock or just in really disbelief at the amount of damage and the devastation and how it looked, but there never was a doubt. There never was a lack of resolve. Citizens of Dresden are pretty resilient, and we knew we were going to come back. And so the coming back now has evidence that we are coming back, and as I like to say, the iris will bloom again. Well, the iris is blooming now.
You know, I had Mayor Jeff Washburn on try to understand some of the things that were having to be dealt with, and he knew that Dresden was not going to be fixed in 1 year, and for that fact, in 2 years. And here we are in Mayfield, Kentucky, for example. They're still trying to rebuild and replace things such as a church, much like one that you and I both know about.
And want to send out, all the good wishes we can to Mayfield, Kentucky. They not only have devastating damage, but they had loss of life in that area, and that's something that you will not ever get over. In Dresden, luckily, our loss was in property. It was in buildings. It was not in people. So we were, in that way, blessed. We knew that the rebuild would take several years. If you're going to get over something like that, I'm not sure that you do, but the getting over it will take even longer than just the rebuild.
Where were you when the tornado hit?
I had just arrived at my home. Some folks know that I'm the stage manager for a ballet company in Jackson, Tennessee. That was our production weekend of our Christmas production. I had just arrived home from Jackson that evening, and my son and my wife were there at the house, and I was noticing some very beautiful lightning shows that were in the sky as I was driving back to Dresden. And actually, we heard the rain. I heard what I thought was acorns hitting the house. Turned out it was hail. And as soon as it passed, it wasn't but a couple of minutes, we got out of our little utility room and we went to bed. And it was about 45 minutes later that Randy Frazier called and said, "You okay?" I said, "I'm fine." He said, "We need your building." He said, "Some people don't have a place to live." So we opened that building, and I think there was about 45 folks that ended up sleeping in our building that night.
You may want to take just an extra moment here about the position that you held during that course of time, because a lot of people knew you as a state representative, a member of the family of the Weakley County school system, and your job was to oversee a program that led to being more than just a program for education.
I was at the time the building administrator for the Personal Development Center out there on Highway 22. It became Command Central when the tornado hit. I went out and opened the building. A lot of our first responders, the firefighters, the rescue squad, ambulance drivers came through that building. They would go, and we engaged some of our bus drivers to go and pick people up, and we're bringing them to the building so that we could get them out of the weather and get them a safe place to sleep, a dry place to sleep that night. And we kept that building open for about 10 days. days. We had varying amounts of people because as we got people places to stay, family members got to town and could take them away, we did that. But what a response from the community to be able to feed and house that many people, to be able to energize our rescue squad members, the Weakley County Municipal Electric Service men and women, how they worked hard that week. Our police, our now police chief was actually blown through the city hall in Dresden. He was actually picked up by the wind and went through City Hall in the air. So it was, if you weren't touched by the tornado, you knew somebody that was.
In talking about that, I recall on that Saturday morning when we were waking up or I was on the air overnight. I don't even remember whether I slept or not. But I recall this was the very first time in the history of the coaches show that we do on Saturday mornings. We drove to Dresden. I drove to Dresden. I went up to the sheriff's department. It was untouched, thank goodness. And at that point, most people in Dresden, in the exterior area of the electricity and, of course, the telephone system and so forth. And I don't know how we were able to get a cell service, because cell service was pretty much non-existent. And we were able to broadcast that with all of the officials and so forth, to be able to explain what was going on to our listeners. That's the very first time that we've missed a Coach's Corner show, and rightly so. But it was amazing of how quiet it was in Martin, how quiet it was in Union City, Fulton and South Fulton, and we got all of these. And all of a sudden, when you drive into Dresden, which was my very first vision of what's this going to look like. Well, I saw a little debris on Highway 22, and there's no country corner, and there's a lot of houses that are strewn away, and trying to go down the hill on Evergreen and trying to look to see what was in front of me, and there's the courthouse.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. And you could actually see the courthouse because the wind had taken out so many trees that the courthouse was behind. So Morrow Street was an interesting place to drive down. Pikeview Street was an interesting place to drive up to get to that hill that you're talking about, and then to drive on into town and to realize that a full 5 city blocks had been absolutely destroyed, with damage all along the main street and all the way out down Taylor Street where I grew up and out towards Palmersville. All of that was showing signs of damage, but our folks, they stepped up. It took us a while to get all the debris and get it to where it needed to be out of the city.
Let's just start on just that one morning. Mm-hmm. There were people coming out of their homes that had chainsaws, for example, mm-hmm. or a truck, and they were and it didn't make any difference whose house it was. Mm-hmm. And many people couldn't get out of their homes right there just off the court square. I
vividly remember after we left the Personal Development Center, I thought we better go check on my mom's house. We couldn't get there. But I remember then Mayor Jeff Washburn and Fire Chief Paul Hutcherson walking through downtown, checking on our church and checking on the Methodist church. And he had firefighters all along Main Street making sure people were alive in their house and had a place to go if their house was damaged, and putting the big X's on the doors if it had been checked and there wasn't anybody in there. So, but the other thing I remember about it is a bustle of activity. A lot of stuff going on. Electric company working on power, fire department working to make sure that things were not on fire. The gas company was working on turning gas off if there was if the things had been damaged. Everybody just kind of kicked in and did what they needed to do. And our city employees, man, what a task that they had. Jennifer Branscombe and Carla Edwards and Toya Bell, and Diane Panna. Their offices were destroyed, but they still had to retain records. They needed records of what had been going on for the last couple of months, and so all that was soaked or blown away. And so, but they gathered all that together and took it out to the Civic Center and set up shop, and we were back in office they were back working on Tuesday. But what an incredible time for the citizens of Dresden to come together and to help each other.
If you just joined us, we're talking with Mayor Mark Maddox, Dresden, Tennessee. Today is the day, this Sunday at 2 o'clock until 4. You can come see the brand new Dresden Municipal building with a ribbon cutting ceremony at around 2:30. So if you can make that this weekend, try to do so. It's a beautiful facility, and you get to go everywhere inside the facility to see for yourself, not just where the fire department is or the police department, but you can see the conference room where a lot of different things have already been used. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, how that City Hall has already made itself at home by, well, with the Irish Festival show right there, because they took over of the boardroom. Is that not right?
We did. The facility, I guess, not officially, because we're not going to officially open it until Sunday, or till today. But before that, we began operations in there somewhere around March 19th, March 26th. But the Irish Festival flower show was held inside the city boardroom, which, by the way, Paul, is also a safe room. We haven't been able to open it to the public yet because we were still a construction site. But a couple of these latest weather threats, we've had some city employees that have gone up there and used the safe room just to make sure that we have it functioning properly so that people can begin to use it when we do officially open it. That city boardroom is a concrete box. It will take a major force to tear that part of that building down. Along with that, we have kitchen facilities in there. In case the safe room has to become a shelter, then we will have the ability to sustain people for a certain amount of time.
We're going to talk back that a little bit more here for just a moment. The thing that you have been charged with in your city board is to come back, to grow it back, and more than anything else, being able to see what is available now in the way of lots for people to start a new business, for example. There's no secrets here. Everybody that lives in Dresden knows who's here and who isn't, but right now is a time where we're talking about growing the Irish back.
Exactly right. The seeds are being, I guess it's the bulbs, because irises grow out of bulbs. The bulbs are being planted now. The city hall is finally up and moving. The churches are back. We've had at least 2 businesses, maybe 3, that have recovered since the tornado.
Let's stop right there about church here for a moment. What does a church do when they don't have a church? What did they do?
Well, I had the bright idea that I might preach in that church on the Sunday after the tornado on Friday night, and the Lord convinced me that since that crack in the back wall had grown by 6 inches between Saturday and Sunday morning, that I didn't need to do that. So we went to Zoom for a little while, just like we did during COVID. Then we met out at the Personal Development Center for a month or so, and then Mount Pleasant Methodist Church invited us to come and use their sanctuary. They meet at 8:30 or 8:45 every Sunday morning, and they're finished in time for us to get in there. So we would come in there about 10:15 or 10:30 and have our service at 11. And if you know this, there's a Baptist church across the parking lot from that church. So for a little while there was a pretty what is it called, ecumenical hill in Weakley County, where all 3 flavors of churches met. So that's what we did. We met there for a good almost 2 years. We had our first sunrise service outside on the steps of the church where we were at Easter, and then the next Easter we were, I guess it was the next Pentecost, that we were in our facility.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about the number of people that came out on that Saturday morning. It was a quiet morning. At the same time, yes, there were maybe some chainsaws and that kind of thing, but it was an eerie kind of time. Would you agree?
Absolutely. You could feel the silence. You almost could feel the silence, but at the same time, there was this bustle of activity. Neighbors checking on neighbors making sure that the houses that got destroyed, that those people had a place to live, that they had clothes, that they had food. And then a bunch of chainsaws showed up, and under the direction
from out of town.
At my mother's house, for instance, I had we had 2 big pine trees that fell on her house, and we really hadn't done anything to it. About midweek, this bunch from Milan shows up, and they have 4 or 5 chainsaws, and they go to working, and it wasn't just men; it was men and women and children. They pulled those trees off that house and got it tree free, I said, and piled it up out on the curb, and that was how we got her house out from under the tree. People just showed up.
When you became the mayor, you came at a time when the transition of Jeff Washburn and you, there were a lot of things that were still taking, for a lack of other words, blast off. I mean, we got to a certain point, and then the next thing you know, things are beginning to happen, much like the Dresden Municipal Complex. Now, keep in mind, there was a setback. You lost part of your roof in all of that. After thinking you were going to be ready.
Part of it, we lost it all. Let's see, it was Memorial Day, I guess, last year. We had a big hailstorm in Dresden, and on Friday before the Memorial Day, they had staged the standing seam roof on the fire department. They had already roofed the front of the building where the police department and the administration and the safe room was, and then a hailstorm came through on Memorial Day weekend and blew all of the standing seam off the roof. Some of it was hanging off the roof, and that everybody thought, they were destroyed. Well, we had never really tacked it down. It was just staged to beginning work on Tuesday, and then the hail damaged the roof in the main part of the building, so that the roof we had just put on 3 months ago had to be peeled off and another one put on it, just because it had so much damage to it. 2 air conditioning units were damaged, and we had to pull those off and get new ones for that. So there were setbacks. You expect that in any construction project, but Paul, we're a resilient bunch over there in Dresden, and we're going to get it done if it can be done.
Mark Maddox, the mayor of Dresden, who is sitting in my office here today as we're talking about here in Martin at WCMT Studios. And, the thing that you can see things happening now, just a little bit of carpentry work, but all of a sudden, the next thing you know, there have been probably a dozen things that were going on at one time.
Oh,
maybe more.
Just on that site, there are all kinds of things that were going on at the same time, and we've been very grateful for our management company that's helped with the construction management, that's scheduled everybody and made sure they had things in. Every 2 weeks on Thursday at 2:00, a group of us met to talk about the progress, about what we're going to try to do for the next 2 weeks, and how that last 2 weeks went. And it's a whole management process that I've been blessed to be a part of.
There was no doubt that it was going to be rebuilt. We're talking about the municipal complex in the same location. It had to be put in the city right there across from the courthouse. Would you agree? I
agree with that. Mayor Washburn and the board at that time made the right decision to put it right back where it was.
Let me, speaking of things that are going on in Dresden, I hate to even bring this up, but we didn't just have one tornado here in the last 3 or 4 years. You had another one out on the highway when you're coming at the National Guard Armory, for example.
We've had 3 in about 30 months. We had one on December 10th. We had another one a year and 364 days later on December 10th of 23, or December 9th of 23. And then just recently we had one out north of town that really didn't affect the city of Dresden at all, but did completely destroy a home of one of the ladies that works in Dresden and who was actually at this courthouse safe room at the time, or else we would be having a different conversation about her and her husband. But yes, we've had, I don't know, Paul, we used to talk about Oklahoma when I was growing up being Tornado Alley. I think maybe it may have moved east.
Mm-hmm. The things that Dresden needs now, what are they?
Well, we need people to continue to shop in Dresden. We need people to continue to believe in the future of Dresden and to act like they believe in the future of Dresden. I think that's the number one thing. I'm a half full kind of guy. I mean, we're getting better. The best is yet to come. All those cliches that you want to use, but we need citizens that understand that, and I think we have them in the city of Dresden. We've had a couple of new businesses that have opened down at the corner of Locust and Pikeview. We have a new gas station. We've had 2 new gas stations within 100 yards of each other that have built, and then we out on the highway have had some new businesses. So it's just, I think what we have to understand is that you don't recover from this physically in a year. You don't recover from this physically in 2 or 3 years, and the psychological recovery takes longer than that. I use my friend Tom Revis as an example. That man, his church was destroyed, his home was damaged, and his business took a hit. He couldn't get away from it. For 6 to 8 weeks, he just couldn't get away from the tornado.
In this discussion that we've been having about the Dresden Municipal Complex, when people come this Sunday afternoon and to take this tour, what is it they're going to see? How much money did you spend? And is there room for expansion? You have all kinds of different people questioning, are going to asking certain things, wanted to know where certain things are.
I tell you, Mayor Washburn and the board did a good job on the design. We have, for the first time, a police department. They're no longer in 2 closets in a hallway. The police clerk has an office. The police chief has an office. Our patrol guys have a patrol room where they can sit and talk about things. There's an evidence room. There's an armory. There's an interview room. So they have all of what they need to be a modern day functioning police department, which we've never had in Dresden. So there is a blessing in all of the things that happen there.
All right, let's talk about
in the
that.
backside of there, we have 6 huge bays that will house all of our equipment. We have a decontamination room because firefighters are exposed to all kinds of bad chemicals when they're fighting fires, and they need to be able to get those chemicals off their bodies and off their equipment. So we have a decontamination room where they can take their equipment, put it into a washer and a dryer that's specifically made for that equipment. They can then shower themselves and then step into their locker room and put on their street clothes. We have a firefighter's day room that they will use to meet to do their training. We have a fire chief's office. We have a report room. We have the ability to fill our own self-contained breathing apparatus equipment, so we don't have to any longer come over to the City of Martin and fill it. Thank you, City of Martin, for providing that for us for so long. But we have our own compressors now. Most of that stuff has been written into grants that they've received. So we're very proud of that department, of what they've done. We also have the ability to expand that department should Dresden ever decide to go to a full-time department. There are places for firefighters to sleep, firefighters to shower, firefighters to do their laundry. So we have that built in already. And in addition, we have new offices for the city recorder, for the city clerk, for the finance director, and we have a little office for the mayor as well. So it's a complex that's going to be able to help our fire department save us, help our police department protect us, and then have the administration of the city government be done in an efficient manner.
Paul Hutcherson is your fire chief. You talked about your police chief a little bit here.
Brian Chandler is our police chief.
And you have Public Works, and let's just go ahead and give these folks some...
Sure. Fire chief's Paul Hutcherson. He and his assistant chief, Corey Green, have been just really... they've just scoured the hills looking for grants and things so they can serve the citizens better. Police Chief Brian Chandler is like a kid at Christmas. He's got all kinds of space now that he's going to be able to use for his officers. Public Works Director Josh Lassiter, there's never a day say that they don't have something to do in the Public Works Department. And, we've had this municipal complex to build, but while that was going on, we still had to make sure the storm drains drained properly, that the sewer was still functioning, carrying things away from the city. We had to make sure the water was still on. The states required us to paint our water towers, hadn't been painted in 40 years. So we've, both inside and outside. So we've continued to do the work that the city's going on, plus we've built the complex. And I want to give credit to City Recorder Jennifer Branscombe, Finance Director Carla Edwards, City Clerk Diane Panna, and Police Clerk Toya Bell. Those four ladies have they've taken a brunt of a lot that's going on.
Let me give you an opportunity to recognize your board members.
Well, no mayor does the job without having a good, supportive city board that has a little bit of a vision. Vice Mayor Gwen Anderson, Alderman Ralph Cobb, Alderman Curtis Doran, Alderman Ken Moore, Alderman Lyndall Dildy, Alderperson Jennifer Slick, and then we've had a couple of aldermen that have rotated in and out since I've been there. Alderman Willie Parker, Alderman Dale Hutchison, who's now county mayor, and then Alderman Kenneth Gatewood filled his unexpired term.
As you move to a new facility, you didn't talk about the courtroom, but if you have a little problem, you bring it to the courthouse. They may give you a certificate of stopping by for a moment, but in all due seriousness, but your courtroom is really a really nice place that you have a lot of space there as well. Well,
our boardroom serves as our courtroom as well as our safe room, so it's a triple. We get triple work out of it. City Judge Tommy Moore did hold his first court there about 2 weeks ago, and there were some folks that walked away with some certificates, although I believe he was in a good mood that day.
I'll just ask you, what is the big need for Dresden now outside of bringing more businesses in? But maybe we need to ask that question. What is it that Dresden could use right now?
Support. As we continue to recover, as we continue to push forward into a very bright future for Dresden and Weakley County, and we try to support each other. I'm sensing a new spirit of support around Weakley County, at least among my fellow mayors and the discussions we have with Mayor Hutcherson. I'm just excited. I'm excited about the city of Dresden and the county of Weakley and what's going to happen in this near future.
1 minute. We just finished up with the Dresden Irish Festival. A little different this year, and as a matter of fact, I thought it was a very good festival this year.
Thank you, Paul. We have a new committee this year. We have some folks that served on it before, so we got a little continuing going on. Miss Branscombe stepped down as chair, and Miss Brittany Mansfield did a great job. They had, and Miss Sarah Harper, they did a great job. They saw it a little differently. They wanted to try some things, and they came to me, and I said, well, sure. Anytime you can breathe new life into something, they ought to do it. So instead of starting on Saturday and ending on Saturday, we started on Friday and ended on Wednesday.
I enjoyed the fireworks show. I know that there was a lot of talk about First Baptist Church hosting the Church Sisters and or Sister Church. Which one was it? Anyway, but to my point, really good entertainment and lots of food, lots of irises, and lots of people that came from out of town to come to Dresden.
And it was tough to do that this year because it rained almost every event that we had outside. But we pushed through it. We wiped the rain drops off, and we continued with the festival.
Mark Maddox, Mayor, Dresden, Tennessee, invites you to come today, this Sunday afternoon at 2:30 for the grand opening. 2 until 4 will be the time that will be open, and you're more than welcome to come to Dresden, Tennessee. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded on Thunderbolt Radio's 30 Minutes.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.